Many people think Philistines and Palestinians are the same, but that is not true. Though their names sound similar, they come from completely different histories, cultures, and origins. The Philistines were an ancient people who lived over 2,500 years ago, while Palestinians are a modern Arab people. The Philistines came from the Aegean region and were not Arabs, while Palestinians have Arab and Canaanite ancestry. They spoke different languages, followed different religions, and had separate histories. The Philistines disappeared after the Babylonian conquest, but Palestinians exist today. It is important to understand history correctly and not be misled by similar names. Join us on this journey of knowledge and truth. Let's dive deep into this topic through a prayerful journey path. Subscribe now for more faith-based insights. The ancient Philistines. Who were they? The Philistines were an ancient people who lived in the coastal region of Canaan around 1200 to 600 BCE. They are best known from the Bible, where they were often in conflict with the Israelites. The famous battle between David and Goliath is one of the most well-known stories about them. Historians believe the Philistines did not originally come from Canaan. Instead, they likely came from the Aegean region, modern-day Greece, Crete, or nearby islands. They were part of a larger group called the Sea Peoples, who migrated to the eastern Mediterranean around 1200 BCE, possibly due to natural disasters or wars. When they arrived, they settled in 5 major cities: Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. This area became known as Philistia. The Philistines were skilled in warfare and had strong armies, often fighting with the neighboring Israelites. Unlike the Israelites, who believed in one God Yahweh, the Philistines worshipped many gods, including Dagon, Baal, and Astarte. They built temples and practiced religious rituals similar to those of other Mediterranean cultures. The Philistines had a unique language that was likely related to Greek or other Indo-European languages. Over time, as they lived among the Canaanites, they adopted the local Canaanite language. One of the things that made the Philistines powerful was their advanced use of iron weapons. At a time when many other civilizations still used bronze, the Philistines had iron swords and tools, which gave them an advantage in battle. However, their power did not last forever. In around 700 BCE, the Assyrian Empire invaded their cities, weakening their rule. Later, in around 600 BCE, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar completely conquered the Philistine cities. After this, the Philistines disappeared from history, likely mixing with other local groups. Although their name was later used by the Romans to rename the land as Palestine, the Philistines themselves are not the ancestors of modern Palestinians. The Philistine people, culture, and language vanished, while new groups, including Arabs, settled in the land much later. Today, the Philistines are remembered through archaeological discoveries and biblical stories. Their artifacts, pottery, and temples give us clues about their culture and way of life. Even though they disappeared, their history is an important part of the ancient world. The modern Palestinians, a different history. The Palestinians are a modern people who primarily live in the regions of Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem, as well as in refugee communities across the Middle East. They are not related to the ancient Philistines, even though their names sound similar. Instead, Palestinians have a mix of Arab, Canaanite, and other Middle Eastern ancestry. The term Palestine comes from the Romans, who renamed the land in the 2nd century CE, after crushing a Jewish revolt. The name was used throughout history, but the people living there changed over time, including Jews, Arabs, Christians, and others. The ancestors of modern Palestinians were mostly Arab tribes, local Canaanite groups, and other Middle Eastern peoples who lived in the region for centuries. With the spread of Islam in the 7th century, most of the population became Arabic-speaking Muslims, though there have always been Christian and Jewish communities as well. During the Ottoman Empire 1517 to 1917, Palestine was part of a larger province, and people of different faiths lived together. In the early 20th century, as European Jews began migrating to Palestine, tensions between Arabs and Jews increased, leading to conflicts over land and political rights. After World War I, the British took control of Palestine under the British Mandate 1917 to 1948. During this time, Jewish immigration increased, leading to more disputes. In 1948, after the creation of Israel, many Palestinians were displaced from their homes, leading to the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Today, Palestinians seek recognition as a nation with their own independent state. Some live under Israeli rule, while others live in areas controlled by the Palestinian Authority or Hamas. Many Palestinians still live as refugees in other countries. Palestinians have a strong cultural identity, with deep ties to their land, traditions, and history. They speak Arabic, practice mainly Islam, and have unique folklore, food, and customs that distinguish them from other Arab groups. The key takeaway is that Palestinians are a modern people with a different history from the Philistines. The name Palestine may have come from the Philistines, but the people themselves are not connected. Understanding this helps us see the truth beyond the confusion caused by similar names. Language and culture, a clear distinction. The Philistines and Palestinians had completely different languages and cultures, making it clear that they are not connected. The Philistines spoke a language that likely came from the Aegean region, similar to ancient Greek or other Indo-European languages. Over time, as they lived in Canaan, they adopted the Canaanite language, which was closer to Hebrew and Phoenician. However, their original language disappeared when they were conquered by the Babylonians. In contrast, Palestinians today speak Arabic, which is a Semitic language related to Hebrew and Aramaic. Arabic became the dominant language in the region after the Islamic expansion in the 7th century. Culturally, the Philistines followed pagan religious practices, worshipping gods like Dagon, Baal, and Astarte, and had customs influenced by Mediterranean civilizations like the Minoans and Mycenaeans. They were skilled in metalwork, pottery, and warfare. On the other hand, Palestinians today have a culture deeply influenced by Arab traditions and Islamic customs, though there are also Christian Palestinian communities. Their traditions, clothing, food, and music are part of the wider Arab world, not related to the Philistines. This clear distinction in language, religion, and traditions shows that despite the similar names, these two groups have no historical or cultural connection. Religious beliefs, pagan worship versus monotheism. The Philistines practiced paganism, believing in multiple gods, including Dagon, Baal, and Astarte. They built temples and offered sacrifices to these deities, who they believed controlled different aspects of life like fertility, agriculture, and war. Their religious practices were similar to other ancient Mediterranean civilizations, focusing on rituals and ceremonies to please their gods. In contrast, the Palestinians, who are primarily Muslims, follow monotheism, the belief in one God Allah. Islam teaches that God is the creator of everything, and Muslims believe in following the guidance of the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. While the Philistines worshipped many gods and practiced idol worship, Palestinians follow a faith based on a singular, all-powerful deity. This difference in religious beliefs is another clear distinction between the two groups. What happened to the Philistines? The Philistines were once a powerful civilization in the ancient Near East, but they eventually disappeared from history. After living in the region for several centuries, they became involved in constant conflict with neighboring civilizations, especially the Israelites. In the 7th century BCE, the Assyrian Empire began conquering Philistine cities, weakening their power. the Philistines were no longer able to maintain control over their land. Later, in the 6th century BCE, the Babylonian Empire, led by King Nebuchadnezzar, conquered the remaining Philistine cities. This was the final blow to their civilization, and the Philistines gradually vanished from history. Over time, the Philistine people were either assimilated into other cultures or displaced. Their language, religion, and identity disappeared, leaving only archaeological evidence of their existence. The region they once inhabited is now part of modern-day Israel and the Palestinian territories. The name Palestine originates from the ancient Philistines, a group of people who lived in the coastal regions of Canaan during biblical times. The Romans used the term Palestina in the 2nd century CE and for crushing a Jewish revolt. They renamed the area Judea to Syria Palestina to erase Jewish ties to the land and honor the Philistines, even though they had long disappeared. Over time, the name stuck and became widely used to refer to the entire region, including parts of modern-day Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. While the Philistines are not the ancestors of the modern Palestinians, the name Palestine has remained associated with the land through centuries of history. Why understanding this difference matters? Understanding the difference between the Philistines and Palestinians is important because it helps us avoid confusion and misconceptions about history. The Philistines were an ancient group with no direct connection to modern Palestinians, who are Arab people with a distinct culture and history. Misunderstanding this can lead to misleading assumptions, especially regarding the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Philistines disappeared over 2,000 years ago, while Palestinians are living today with their own unique identity, religion, and traditions. This distinction also helps in understanding the historical context of the region and clarifying that the modern-day people of Palestine have a rich Arab heritage. Recognizing this difference promotes peaceful dialogue and a better understanding of both ancient and modern Middle Eastern history.